Council as the Minerals Planning Authority on a series of grounds which relates to the, at this point what I'd like to do is invite the appellant and advocate Dr. Lunt to make an opening statement.
West Devon area and the Tamar Valley area for some 3 centuries with very little in the way of breaks in that mining continuum. And the World Heritage Site designation itself is not just about preservation, it's actually about interpretation and public access. And we believe that our development will enhance this, and we'll present that data today. And we will have a full environmental management system in place to reduce the impacts during the operational phases of the site.
We've heard the case for the support, and I'm going to now make the case very forcibly why the planning permission should be refused. And I've got a number of points that I want to raise, particularly with regard to the damage. At this site, we'll maintain that considerable damage will be done to the site for little or no profit. And as we've heard from my honourable friend say, the case really rests on the fact that mitigation will be in place which will allow the development to take place.
Take the evidence of each witness as read. I have certainly read them, but it might help the witness if the advocate just kind of gives them the opportunity to expand on the key points in their evidence rather than simply just kind of read it.
You're aware that you cannot put a mineral development in a World Heritage Site due to its international importance?
Yes, I'm very much aware.
Okay. So what do you think the effect of the development will be on these ancient monuments?
Very high effect.
And could these ancient monuments, if they're damaged, could they be replaced?
That brings me to the issue of authenticity.
Okay.
I don't know if I could give you an example with probably this pen I have here. If this actually the DGC site, if the reprocessing takes place, let me give you an example. If this is removed and you change it with this, it will never be the same thing. I don't know if I'm right, but I strongly believe it will never be the same thing. So the authenticity of this has been altered. So
It's incontrovertible.
I present figure 5.1 from the environmental statement, which shows the outline of the site. Would you say that this is the position of most of the mining heritage, the calciners, the flues that you've described, the grinding areas, the furnaces down this side?
I think so.
Okay, and
Adam, you just like to introduce.
Development may only occur in ANOBs in exceptional circumstances. This is not an exceptional circumstance for a number of reasons. Could you outline what those reasons might be?
There's no economic margin for the development in this case, and I know this is a socio-economic thing, but at the same time this is linking to the landscape. It was a very definition of exceptional, is that it has to be something that is being good for the area as a whole. And this is a small development. It is not like a massive mining operation in somewhere like Australia or Chile. It is a small local operation that will damage an area which is currently protected.
a 360-degree compass is visible. This site is visible.
It is visible, yes.
Could you tell me whereabouts the nearest local population centre is to the site?
Well, the nearest main population centre is Gunners Lake.
Is that
Yes.
is that there?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
And then it can be said that it cannot be viewed that well from Gunners Lake. However, we can argue that with the lighting and things like that, and you can still see on the edges that it's visible to an extent.
But no direct view from Gunners Lake.
Quarry. There are regional, national and international species at the Devon Great Consuls that we maintain will suffer a material loss by potentially disturbing the site or destroying some of the habitat. What's the variety of species that live in that area that are so unique?
At least within the sphere of influence, within 2 kilometres of the site, there are European protected species. They have bats which are using a flyway across the site and also using the mine adits to roost during the day and hibernate during the winter. There's otters as well nearby, which is another European protected species. So these species are heavily protected. There'll be different impacts on different species, so it's difficult to summarise them all. Something like the goshawk, the Forestry Commission recommended buffer zones around the nest is 250 metres to 450 metres, and they've been recorded within 200 metres of the site. I'm not sure if it was a breeding pair, but they've at least been recorded in the woodlands nearby on the site for more of these species.
Okay. So not protected, but
no.
Scientifically curious.
No, well, the site itself is the county wildlife site, which is a statutory.
It's around the site and dispersed lighter particles. Could you tell us about these contaminants that will be airborne and possibly damage that they may cause?
What we know of is that the site is heavily contaminated with arsenic, but there is a great unknown for the other contaminants, other heavy metals. Copper, for instance, it was a copper mine to begin with, so there's bound to be great concentrations of copper also. Particle size, the reduction in particle size will therefore make a larger surface area for any catalysing of contaminants to occur.
So would you think that would be better for the site, or is it going to be adverse?
It will be very much adverse.
Do you need to help you out on that?
I know from your thing you put 60 decibels.
60.
I think that's slightly higher.
Slightly higher, in
Yeah.
your expert opinion,
I think
what?
50.
50 decibels. I've got quite a loud voice, would you say?
Yeah.
Please be Okay.
Could tungsten be sourced elsewhere?
There is a new mine just on Dartmoor, which has recently got the go-ahead, which will be a much larger venture than this one.
Tungsten?
No. 2013.
Okay.
That there is an alternative supply of tungsten?
Yes, I would. Yeah, we've got a China is the biggest exporter of tungsten.
The development can only go ahead
Sites, in exceptional circumstances. Well, if mineral proposals were always done.
and we must also not damage the scheduled ancient monuments, is that correct?
Exactly.
So
We break, and we're going to break now for an hour and return here at 1 o'clock prompt.
because I think you are claiming that those large machines carrying 40 tonnes are not going to be able to damage any of this. You're claiming that mitigation will mitigate the effects of development. Is that correct?
Yes, given the site layout that I've seen, I believe that there's sufficient distance away from these artefacts to stop any damage occurring through groundborne vibration. We did a lot of restoration work, taking the structures up to a level that they were below previous to that work. So restoration work in that sense may not be negative.
In terms of the footprint of the development, where the roads and the buildings are going, there is a minimal amount of vegetation there in the first place, and they can be replaced with local seed mix, so I don't think it'll be major.
There's going to be dust which is blowing. There's all sorts of issues about water moving off the site. So you would agree that much of the pollution would actually extend far away beyond the boundaries of the site that we've heard of?
I would suggest that's something to bring up with pollution. However,
you reckon? That these the birds and so on won't adapt well, but rather they will flee the area.
The paper I just mentioned would imply that it is very possible for the animals to adapt successfully.
But do we know whether animals adapt? Surely some animals will badly adapt to these.
it varies by species. Some maybe not, some will.
How do you recover such an incident?
Yeah.
And can you explain why?
Well, right, and it would be better than it is right now as well, because there is currently no mitigation. So if there is a big flood right now, a lot of arsenic will be entering the water courses in the runoff. But there will be settlement pond during the operational phase that will collect the water, and they would be large enough for a 100 years.
1 in 100 storm event. Not talking about big boulders here falling off a metal shovel.
It's literally like
We're talking about something similar to sugar or
sand,
flour, maybe. And in terms of the equipment that's used, what are the specifications of the digging machinery and the machinery that's used in this operation, just to give us an idea of
do you mean like?
are they old, new equipment?
Well, it would be obviously it would come into the minerals policy statement, see what's required there, and also in the British standards.
Didn't count that more ore will have to be mined to get this 6 million revenue, then with the less ore being mined to create the £4 million revenue, there will actually be lower operating costs and other costs incurred. So the actual leftover money may actually...
Increasing HGV movement will have an adverse effect on the public's access.
Well, I think if we use the mitigation measures in place, like not sending out the HGVs from the site during the busy rush hour periods, real revenue, sorry.
3 million.
Yes.
But if you're only making 4 million, that doesn't leave much profit.
Obviously, if we're making, we can obviously it's adjustable, and obviously as I've just said, that the costs may be reduced, and then we can work it out from other areas where more money needs to be allocated.
Well, what I meant at the beginning is technically it would be classified as a major application, as with a small extension on a school valve.
You're saying it's going to be major, but actually we're now saying it's not really major at all, it's much more minor. And then I've got this issue with the exceptional circumstances. So
I kind of don't see the purpose in looking at figures. The idea of mitigation is to make sure you're mitigating against a problem, whether that costs £30 or £3,000 or £3 million is irrelevant in planning time, because if you're mitigating against that problem, then you've met the requirement.
Mr. Hill,
Yes.
this is your opportunity to make your statement.
I live in Gunnersake, very close to the proposed development, and we have some issues that we'd like to put before the planning committee for this development. We are very concerned as residents that we do live next to spoil heaps that are leaching toxins into our waterways. Our children go swimming in this lake, the river Thames. We want to enjoy it. In terms of World Heritage, it is far better to have World Heritage sites that people can go and see and enjoy. And again, our developer is proposing to give us these facilities, to give us visitor services, to let us actually go there and enjoy this site in safety by taking out the toxins that are already there, they're inherent there. So again, we think that this planning application should be approved. I think that will probably do me before I rant on anymore.
Would you like to cross-examine
It's made my case for me there. I'm glad you could come along. So in terms of your actual, you're local to the site, you say?
Yes.
Okay, and you've canvassed local opinion?
Yes, we have. Yes, we have indeed.
And is that widely held, that opinion?
I believe so, yes. There are many families local to the area that do go down and enjoy Tamar River in that area. Lots of the residents actually do use the countryside, the local facility. And we're very aware of the fact that it's not particularly safe. We try and keep our children as much away as possible from downstream of the mine. If that can be improved, then it will become much, much safer. We heard earlier on about dust particles affecting the children. We've got arsenic in our water where the children swim. Let's get rid of that properly. Sorry.
So have you had any concerns in terms of the noise we heard at great lengths about? Do you
No, you're in the middle of a, look at it, you're in the middle of a forest. You're in the middle of a forest. It doesn't matter how much noise you're making. You're surrounded by trees. One of the mitigation measures you put in when you build things like motorways is to run trees down it because they absorb noise. No issues at all.
Excellent.
It's for 3 years, it'll be done. You're not picking up huge boulders, you're dropping gravel, sand. It doesn't make a lot of noise. I like this. Is that it? Oh,
There are two issues which I need some clarification. One is about the local area, and the other is about the company that we're dealing with. The first point is, you've heard from the local planning authority particularly, and also the developer, about the amount of dust and about the noise and so on.
How much noise is it? How much noise is it? How much noise is going to affect us? We live about 4 miles away. So how much noise am I going to suffer? How much noise are the general residents of that area actually going to suffer?
And what
is
about
the
the people, I suppose the point I would like to make is, what about the 11 residents that live within 100 metres of the site? Have you heard one of these diggers going?
I have, yes. I'm an engineer, surprisingly. So I do know what they are.
And so,
not at all. But do you not have to listen to the residents? And am I not a resident there? Yes, I am.
You're from
yes, I am. We have already heard from the
you have
developer.
said that you're not going to be adversely affected by the noise. And every time I ask you about the noise of the people living locally, you then refuse to answer the question. And in fact, you're telling me that more money will be put in than you've got at your disposal to change.
It's not my money. I understand.
And why are you claiming? Let me ask you this.
Excuse me, gentlemen.
Okay, let's move on.
No, sorry. Yes, please. I'm afraid to say, the phrase was coined earlier on, it's a no-brainer. We have a problem with this site that it is creating a health hazard, and we want it fixed.
Or are you speaking in a personal capacity?
I am speaking in a personal capacity.
So these residents that you speak for, is there any association that do they have regular meetings? Do they have a constitution?
No.
So
we don't.
You're presenting yourself as a spokesman for local residents, but without any constituent body behind you. You're seeking. I'm just trying to understand whether you are seeking to represent local residents body behind you. So you are simply speaking in your own right.
I am speaking in my own right.
But
I have been prompted to come to this because of concerns raised by other local residents who want it to move ahead, want things to happen, want to get this site cleared up, want to have the Tamar River clear of any toxins.
But to be very clear, you are speaking in a
personal capacity.
Thank you very much.
You've heard today for the development. I believe that we've presented evidence to show that the development would not adversely affect the integrity and cultural heritage of this area of the Tamar Valley. I believe that we presented evidence that would show that we would improve the interpretation and public access of the site, and also seek to preserve those existing scheduled ancient monuments actually on the site. We are quite happy to put in conditions with regards to the planning in terms of noise reductions, secondary glazing, and we will look to the inspector to make clear our planning obligations with regard to the restoration of the site. So at that point, I think I would like to rest my case. Thank you very much for your attention.
First point is that the mineral processing policy statements are absolutely clear, they're crystal clear, that mineral processing can only occur in A&EBs in exceptional circumstances. We've had how the experts from the developers have rather floundered to prove that these are exceptional circumstances. We believe, therefore, that the appellant has not made the case. We also go on to say that the development will be detrimental to the integrity of the site. We've heard about the importance of these rare species which are there, particularly the lichens and so on. We've also heard about the natural values of the tailings and so on, and how by moving those we will change the heritage and possibly would not only adversely affect the ancient monuments, but also could lose World Heritage status. And so, against the £7 million which has been spent, I would suggest that the developer is actually quite complacent in terms of what is going to be achieved. We've heard that mitigation will ensure that no problems exist. Well, can we really guarantee that the ancient monuments will be protected against the disturbance and all the other factors. The commission on a Grade 2 listed building locally was turned down on the grounds of the solar panels and double glazing. We're talking about a few glazing bars and a bit of glass, and that development was turned down. So imagine the impact that this development, which is considerably greater, over 67 hectares, will have at the site. Thank you very much.
Concern that's expressed about the ability of the developer to deliver mitigation, which was raised by the local planning authority, I believe that the right course is to require the developer to enter into a planning obligation which will provide a bond for the provision of these mitigation measures, so that there can be no uncertainty that they're not going to be provided. So, taking into account all of those factors, in reaching my decision, I've taken account of the local economic benefits, as well as the potential harm to local leisure economy, which, as I previously said, I consider to be finely balanced. And in reaching my overall decision, I'm mindful the considerable efforts have been made by the appellant to address the environmental impacts that have been identified through the environmental impact report. However, I'm concerned that the development will cause harm to the integrity and authenticity of the World Heritage Site through its interventions in the spoil heap, and it also poses a potentially significant risk to species of national importance. And on these grounds, I must recommend to the Secretary of State that the appeal be dismissed as being contrary to policy MP1 and MP3 of the local development plan.